All right, this is going to be a weekly recap from the 15th of August to the 19th, and I had a total of 17 trades. My sleep has been horrible, so I'm going to try to do my best going over these trades. And just to briefly go over the stats, I had a 70% winning percentage rate, and about half of my trades were according to my dollar risk level, which is not good. I need to continuously try to trade according to my $40 risk level with OTCs, or $5 if it's a listed stock setup. My average dollar gain and loss were about the same, so I guess the winning percentage helped. My average percent gain was a little lower than my average percent loss, and my size was a bit larger on my winning positions on average compared to my losing positions. And I did hold one trade for a very long time, so it kind of threw off the stats right here. But essentially, I think I still traded better than the last week because I made $30 with $3,900 of trading volume compared to $30 and trading $6,000 of trading volume, and that was exactly it. $30. I didn't make anything more or less, which was kind of weird. Having 17 trades and making a perfectly round number. Let's go ahead and go over the setups one by one, starting with STEK on the 15th. So the 15th is going to be, actually I need to start from this side. 15th is going to be right here. And not a very significant day other than the fact that maybe it did offer like a dip buy setup when it dropped to this previous day low, and maybe it held off of it. Let's just go ahead and highlight the 15 to see what exactly happened here. And my first trade of the week was a morning panic bounce play higher low setup, and I was very happy with the way I traded this one. Let's look at this. My entry was at 938, 20 shares at 534. So we're going to zoom in a bit more. And 938, I believe, was a time period right here. And I was in, just to be sure, at 534. So I was in it right here at 534. Why? A morning panic bounce play, higher low setup. So it did have a drop. It went from the 668, so it got as low as $5. It had the bounce, and then it downtrended, and then I was buying it right here, trying to go for a higher low. So ideally, it does this drop, but then it's higher than the level here, and then it continues to uptrend over a longer period of time, and ideally get above VWAP. I did get out at 952, so I held this one for a while, and my average was 543 and a half. So let's look at 952. 952 was right here, and I was out at I believe 543 and a half was when I got out. So this might have been my average, and this is when I got out of my last piece. And I think I was happy with this trade because although this one didn't really work out that well, I did get in the setup at 938, and it did bottom a little more before it started to turn around, but it made a move towards the upside. It made one more downtrend, and this was like a little baby higher low from here because it transitioned from this wick being at this 516 level to now, being the bottom right here at 522. And then I saw my last piece at not 5, but at 952. So I was just very happy with it because this has been something that I've been trying to get better at. When I'm in a setup, ideally, I want to be out about half of my position when an uptrending trend line breaks. So, for example, I was in this setup and I could draw probably a trend line right here when it first started to work. And I was in at 938. And then by the time it breaks this trend line, I should be at least half of my position. Left, have half of my position. And then it makes a higher low ideally. I could have broken the level and then I'd be cutting the other half for a loss. But it did actually make a higher low off of this level. And then I saw the rest into the next uptrend. I never got to VWAP, but it did make a move later, not with the best volume. But yeah, that's why I was pretty happy with the way I traded that overall. And that is still something I am trying to work on. Let's look at the next trade, which was SQQQ on the 15th. 15th is going to be right here. This is essentially shorting the overall markets. Even though this is not a short position, I did buy shares of this this is essentially short the QQQ. So you're basically shorting the overall markets. Let's go back to the 15th, which is going to be this first one right here. And I bought 30 shares, 1001, and that was at 3409. So 1001 is when I got in. I'll probably just zoom in a bit more. Right here I got in, and why did I get in? Because I just felt like it's been doing something where I felt like the overall market should turn around at some point, and I did get in right here, thinking that I was in at a pretty good point when I believe the day was down. The overall markets were down on the day, and I had a very clear risk level of it going back to being green, and I got out of this one at 1018 at 34 and a half. So again, I had my position in here, then I got out at 1018, which was right around here at 34. And I got out of this position. It was profitable. I didn't make very much because it was higher priced stock, although it was $7. It was a very small percent gain because it is a higher priced thing. I just wasn't really that happy with the way I traded it because I wanted it to be a swing trade, and instead I sold for, a day trade. I turned it into a day trade. I sold the same day that I bought. It did fail eventually, but now that I'm looking back at this, there's nothing wrong with taking profits. And it is kind of hard to trade a position like this because I was on a account that wasn't a cash account. I was going to have to sell everything at once because I don't want to break the PDT rule. So I'm not going to fault myself too much with this one, but the one thing I could have done better is that, according to this, if I, didn't have the setup go the way I wanted, I would have lost a lot more than my $5 risk level. So I actually should have had maybe like 10 shares instead. Even though it benefited me to have the wrong amount of shares, to have more than what I was supposed to, and the setup worked. That's something I need to work on. Just making sure I have the right dollar risk level. Let's look at XCPL for the 16th. 16th is right here. First uptrending day after I had a previous one that wasn't too nice looking. So the expectations are low that it's going to continue the uptrend for more than one day. I was in at 935 at 75. Dip and rip first day, so 935, 75. I was in it right here in this candle at 75. And why did I get in? Well, it kind of did an uptrend right here, right at the market open. It had a gap up and everything. But then when it came back and it went under VWAP, I thought this was going to be like a dip buy situation, a dip and rip. And I was going to cut the trade if it was going to break below the level right here, the day low. And again, I was in it right here at 935 at 75. I got out at 942 at 79. So 942 was right here is when I got out at 79. And I just probably was happy with the fact that it got to VWAP and it didn't seem to really uptrend that much more. It's kind of weird that it said I got out at 79 when it doesn't really show it was there. Yeah, and it's exactly 79. So maybe I actually sold in the 941, but the order, I guess, closed at this time period or something. But yeah, it did get to VWAP. It didn't uptrend higher, which would have been more ideal. This thing had like one more downtrend, as you can tell, breaking below the day low before it finally made a move significantly above VWAP, which was cool because it went from 69 to 98. But this doesn't seem like a realistic setup because, essentially if it breaks the day low, especially when it had this crappy day right here that wasn't that strong, at least over a longer period of time, I'd probably think it was just going to fade off, but it did turn around, and I did have a good attempt right here. I did sell towards this VWAP level, and it didn't get that much above it. Let's look at XCPL again, and that is on the 16th. So is that the same day? Actually, it is. Okay. I was long at 1006 at 87, and this was a high day breakout. 1006 was right here. 1006 is when I got in at 87. So I got in right here because it was looking like it was going to break the day high, which is clearly what it was showing. The only thing I didn't like was that it it was uptrending with a wide spread, trading ugly, and the price action wasn't that good, but it was looking like it was going to break the level, and I did get out. I remember this one being painful at the moment. I don't remember why, but this one was painful. At 10:14, I got out at 82.6. 10:14 is when I got out right here, 82.6. So I essentially got out right here. This was my average, and I remember why this one sucked. I did buy at 87, and then I did sell because the price action wasn't looking too good. I did try to sell everything at 88, but instead of placing 10,000 shares, which is my position size, I accidentally sold just 1,000 shares. So this was a fat finger mistake because I should have been out of everything. Instead, again, it was just 1,000 shares out of 10,000 shares. And then when it had this downtrend right here, I got out. I didn't like it. That could have been the end of it, but then right afterwards, it started the uptrend. It got as high as 98, which kind of threw me off. Really crappy, but at the same time, the stock wasn't trading with that much volume. It was pretty jumpy, sub penny, not a lot of things going for it. A crappy first run up not too long ago. It was a fine attempt for what it was, and if I didn't fat finger this one, this would have been fine, right? I would have made just a little, but it would have prevented me from the loss. And I guess the frustration of having that fat finger mistake selling 1,000 shares instead of everything, 10,000 shares. Let's look at CYDY on the 16th, and this one also is painful. I'm starting to remember the pain from some of these trades that I had. Right here is the 16th, so nothing really significant other than that it was looking like it was going to break this resistance level. We had a wick below it, but it seemed to have gained itself back to where it was. Let's highlight the 16th, and this is it. I was in at 1057, 74.4, and this was a reversal long. Okay, so 1057, 74.4, so 1057 was right here, and I got in at 744. So right here is when I got in. Essentially, it did have the thing where it just had a downtrend, broke under the level, but I thought there was a lot of support, I guess, from this point right here, which is a bit hard to tell. I guess I could maybe try to highlight from the 16th, right? The 16th is going to be right here. Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell, but essentially I did see that it was having some kind of a support level previously from this range, and that's why I got in at that point at the 744 level. So that was the entry there, and I did get out at 1109 at 73. Right here is when I got out, and this one sucked. I got out at 73, so right around right here at 1109. And again, I was in the setup for the move, and it just, I had a crappy downtrend under VWAP. It shook me out. Kind of came back with no volume, back and forth, back and forth. One more ugly wick with volume, and then it made a move all the way to 80, which was something I thought it could do. I thought it could uptrend because it had the downtrend and it was like basing, putting up higher lows ideally. And then, we had a support back here. This thing worked out. It just didn't have that much volume, and with this type of stock, I should either not trade it because it doesn't have enough volume, or just have a super wide risk level, because if this thing is, super low priced, low volume, it can be manipulated easily. If I have like a high risk level, like the day low, even if it doesn't have that much volume, it's going to be very hard to manipulate it all the way down to the day low and then break it. So that's something I can take into consideration. And let's just see what a sell at 77 would have been, not even like to the top of the range. Yeah, that would have been nice. It just, threw me off in the way it did it. Another downtrend, and then it turned around immediately, and there was one more like that. Not happy with the way I traded this one. SQQQ again on the 16th. Okay, I don't know why that happened, but we still got the chart. 16th is going to be right here. Again, just trying to pick a top, and then it ultimately started to work right after I got out of the position, of course. The overall markets are downtrending at least a little bit. I guess just to go over it very quickly. I felt like it was going to do some kind of topping price action, and this was the 16th. So you can see we're starting to downtrend a little. I think it might have broken this trend line that it's forming right here. So this will be something to continue to watch, but I'll probably just stay away from setups like that. 16th is going to be back here. Yeah, this one got me good. All right. I was in at 1104 at 34. Let's just say 36. There was nothing wrong with my entry. Um, just to be sure, yeah, 1104. So 1104 was when I got in right here at this 34, 36 level. Nothing wrong with this setup. The only problem was that this was another day when the overall markets were down and my risk level was it going green on the day, and then I'd have my stop and everything, and if it fails, well, if it uptrends the overall markets and it goes from red to green, I'll be out of my position. I never had a stop. I never placed the stop right here, and that really got to me because I wasn't like watching this the entire day because I was upset with the previous two trades. I never placed a stop. I got out of this one, and I deserve to get out near the bottom at 208 at 33.15. So 208 was right here, 33.15. I finally got out of the position right here. And again, I was in the position right here. If I had my stop, I think I would have cut it. Maybe, I guess I can find out what my stop would have been. My ideal stop, 34. Yeah, I would have just lost $5. And that would have been the end of it if I traded according to my $5 risk level, which made it funny because I actually had a $2 risk level, so I should have had 10 shares actually. But then because I didn't have the stop, I did get out at a super low price when the markets were just uptrending like crazy, and then the market sold off in the last hour, and I actually could have gone out maybe for even close to break even, but that's not the idea. The idea was that I should have been long right here because I had a good setup, a good plan, and I should have cut the trade when it got to this $34 level because it didn't work out, and that would have been the end of it. Use a stop loss. That's the lesson with this one, especially when it comes to something I want to hold for a longer period of time and it's a listed stock. So that was a good lesson with that. Totally deserved that crappy sell. Let's look at IND for the 17th. This one just keeps uptrending. I remember the original breakout over 12. Very impressive stock. This one has a lot of attention recently. I was in at 939 at 271, and this was a bull flag. So 939, I'll zoom in a bit more. 939 was right here, and I got in at 271. I'll zoom in even more. Right here at 939 at 271 is when I got in. Why? Bull flag. You can see the pole, you can see the flag. It had a downtrend, and then I got in right when it looked like it was going to turn around at 271, which was a good call, and I did get out at 941 at 2775. So 941 was right here at 2775. So I guess right around right here is when I got out at 941. It worked. I mean, the bull flag played out and everything. Didn't really, offer something that would work over a longer period of time and continue to put higher lows or something like that. But I think this was a good setup for what it was. I just needed to have more shares because I thought worst case scenario I'd be out at 22, which would make sense if it just has like this bull flag, but it fails and then it starts to panic because it's been up over so many days, which it eventually started to do, panic a little bit, but it's still holding on to itself. And yeah, I just needed more shares. Let's see what it would have been like if I had maybe 7,000 shares. That would have been a $40 risk level. I would have made a little more, but that's something I need to keep working on because although it doesn't really, seem that much of a difference, like a $30 instead of $40 risk level. If I ever end up at the point where I trade like a $10,000 risk level, it might matter a lot to, be off significantly at that point. So yeah, I just have to keep getting better with that. I did trade the stock a lot. The next setup is a setup that I severely under traded in terms of size. This was the first dip under VWAP. I got in at 947, 258. 947 right here, 258, excuse me, 258 is when I got in. First dip under VWAP, makes sense. Morning spike, downtrends. Great opportunity to be in this setup. Great setup. I got out at 950, 271. So right here, 950, 271. Maybe I got out because it started to break an uptrending trend line. I wasn't trying to hold for like a higher low past an uptrending trend line or something like that once it breaks it, because this is not necessarily a morning panic bounce play setup. So that's why I didn't do that here. And the only issue was that I just didn't have the right size. I guess I put that I should have risked, what is that, 23, so like a little bit under the day low. I thought worst case scenario would have been, so I'm in the setup right here, and then a downtrend breaks the wick, and then we have slippage. I wasn't able to cut it immediately. Worst case, I'm out at 23. I didn't have enough shares. I should have had, I guess, 15,000 shares. I would have made so much more money, and that would have equaled perfectly 43. That's kind of weird. Yep, good trade. Severely undersized. I need to keep working on that. Essentially, right after the moves happen or whatever it does in the morning, it just makes it much harder for it to get under the day low. So I need to move my risk level to the day low, and then, you know, have the right amount of shares with that in mind. Let's look at the next setup. Inverse head and shoulders, 955 at 27. So 955 is when I got in. Right here at 27. I got in right here because I thought it was an inverse head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder. You know, I thought we had a dip under VWAP. I thought this was going to be like the next dip that held VWAP. And then I'm in it right here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. We're going to break ideally the shoulder of 27. Get to the 27.7 level. Maybe get to the 28 level. And then we can continue the uptrend. I guess I was thinking super aggressively there. I did get out at 958 at 268. So right here. And I got out 268. It just wasn't working out. It wasn't playing out the way I wanted. You know, it just made this topping price action, which was lower than here, because at least we had a wick. Lower than here. It just wasn't looking good. And I got out at 958. Didn't work out. Totally fine with that. Trade to the right. Nope, the wrong amount of shares. So actually should have lost more money. But had it have worked out, I would have been salty because I was undersized by half of my position, which is at least better than the previous one right there, which was like a third of my position that I should have traded. Let's look at the next INND setup. This is a big bull flag. 1012 at 268. So 1012 right here at 268. So I got in right here at 268. Let's try to draw the bull flag. In theory, you know, kind of hard to tell because it's like in the future. I'm not, you know, in the setup anymore. I'm not at the moment that I traded it, but I mean, it kind of looks like a bull flag. And then I guess you can maybe even draw from here something playing off of these candles, right? It's a very big bull flag, and this is the pole, of course, so very big, crazy looking bull flag. Probably not the way it had the trend lines at the time, but I'm just guessing. And again, I was in at 1012 at 268 just to go over it. Now that I have these lines right here, 1012, 268, it did break the upper part of the flag. Obviously, if it breaks the bottom part, that's bearish. I did get out at 1017, 271. So 1017, 271 is when I got out. My average right here, 271. And yeah, it did break above it. It didn't do that much more, but I probably saw the breakout, and then I didn't like the topping price action here of it not really going anywhere. I cut the trade. It did downtrend a little bit more. Now holding VWAP, and this thing started the option some more, but yeah, this was a bull flag setup. Nothing wrong with that. A very big one, because remember the first one was right here, and now this one was kind of, you know, longer. Next one is AXXA. Let's look at AXXA for the 18th. Right here, almost right there. Yep, 18th. Pretty cool looking day. And this was the 18th. Let's highlight it right here. Was in at 934 at 187, and this was a morning range breakout, so I'll zoom in a bit more. 934 at 187 is when I got in, and the morning range breakout setup is something like this. You know, this thing is nice, big, ideal green day, a bit of a gap up. Could have plenty of potential for it to uptrend, break this 20 level or 2 cent level, and then be super cool. And again, I was in it because it was trading back and forth in the range. And then when I got in the setup, I thought it was going to break above the high, which was this level at 194, and then do like a nice morning spike. I got out at 936 at 188. So right here. And I essentially got out of it very quickly, barely profitable for my entry. This was a scratch because I just didn't like the price action. And I don't mind being cautious with the morning. You know, right at the market open, because it could easily just fail and just start panicking like crazy. And I got out for a scratch. It didn't necessarily work out, but it did later. You know, it did later. It did make a move as high as 21. And I remember I did try to buy it when the price action was looking way better. Unfortunately, I just didn't get filled here, but I was on the right track. It just didn't happen when I got in a bit too ugly, but it did clean itself up and do a nice move later. Unfortunately, it didn't do much more, as you can tell by the candle, but it could have done something else. It could have continued the uptrend throughout the day even more, and maybe try to run for more than just one day. Let's look at INND for the 18th. Back with INND. And the 18th is going to be right here. Yeah, just a crazy candle day. Could have been the second big red day, but it didn't. It held itself together very aggressively. It's aggressively trying to hang onto its highs, and maybe I'll trend some more. If they're short sellers, they're probably not happy with this stock. Let's look at my first trade at 949 at 21, and this was a morning panic bounce play, so I'll probably just zoom in a bit more. 949 at 21, I got in right here, thinking it was a morning panic bounce play. Sure, we kind of had one right here, but I don't like how it was just one red candle. I thought this was like the official morning panic bounce play, and I got in right here at 21. I'll probably just zoom in even more. Right here at 21 is when I got in. You know, at the time, this was like the morning panic bounce play at 949. Did I say 948? Yeah, 949 right here at 21. I did get out the next minute, 217. So 217 was my average. And yeah, even though you know, this is in theory a morning panic bounce play, and the goal was that, you know, I'm in the setup, I sell half, and then when it breaks the uptrending trend line, I should be able to hold for a higher low, and then that higher low can continue to ideally continue to move higher. I don't like how quick this turnaround was. I wanted it to be something very slow, because I feel like it's more of a confirmation that it's going to ideally uptrend more, because it was so quick, and because of where it was on a daily chart, it was kind of scary. So I don't mind that I didn't, you know, try to hold for a higher low. Again, I was in right here at 21, and then I would have drawn a trend line from the corner of the next candle, breaks it. Even though I got out of it already at 217, I should have held at least half of my position, and then I could have sold ideally for it to be another move even higher than here, which it clearly didn't do. I don't mind that again in this case because of the way this one traded with just a quick spike all the way up right here. I didn't like that. And I also didn't like how it was on a daily chart. I was worried that it was going to downtrend more, which is exactly what it did. Next trade is a scratch. I didn't make or lose anything. At least I traded the right amount of shares. 15,000 shares, a lot more than 5,000 on that one IND setup where I was super undersized. I was in at 1011, 15,000 shares at 202. This was a morning panic bounce play, lower low, round number support, hold, and a trend line. 1011, 202. So right here is when I got in at 202. So the idea was that it was a morning panic bounce play right here, lower low setup right here, so lower than the way it was right here, holding the round number of 2 cents, And then trend line. So I probably had a downtrending trend line that I'm not going to be able to guess anymore, or at least probably not guess anymore. So I probably thought, morning panic bounce play. Here's a lower low setup, holding the round number of 2 cents. And then maybe if this was a downtrending trend line that I had, how it tried to get above it here briefly, but then it came back. Now it was trying to be, something that is now having distance from it after downtrending, and now it can try to turn around and get to VWAP ideally. Didn't work out. I did get out the next minute at 202, so probably didn't like the price action, and I managed to get out for a scratch. Didn't make or lose anything. I'll leave this trend line alone. I think I used this one later. Or actually, no, I didn't use this one later. This ended up being the ultimate turnaround. I missed out on this one, but I think in the future, I can be able to be a part of it. Just be in half a position. When it started the uptrend and turn around right here, I wanted it to downtrend one more time before it would ultimately turn around, but this one just kept uptrending, and I could have been in maybe half of my position, so that, in this ultimate turnaround, if it just starts to break a trend line, I don't know where I had the trend line, but if you go to the day that I traded this on the 18th, you can see where I talk about this setup that I missed out. But essentially, I could have been in half of my position because it did break the downtrending trend line that I had. And then, if it comes back one more time, downtrends, I could be in full sized, or if it just continues to uptrend like it did right here, I would at least have half of a position size to sell into and be profitable with. I did something with this mindset and NEPT, which is a few trades lower. Let's look at INND for the 18th, which is the same day. Morning panic bounce play tsunami. I was in at 1019 at 181. So I did trade it, but I didn't trade the ultimate turnaround. 1019 at 181. I was in it right here. Pretty good entry. Thinking this might be the potential bottom, especially because it had all these big volume candles. And I got out at 1021 at 185. So right here is when I got out. I got out because it did uptrend. It did break this range right here, this 185 ceiling, but I didn't like how it did it. And I know that stocks that have been up for a very long time, that eventually have its big red day, has a lot of these little baby uptrends, and then it continues to downtrend. And I was worried about that. And it did downtrend more. The next minute actually was the lowest point in the entire day, but it could have continued the downtrend over a longer period of time. And I think this was a good attempt for what it was, especially after having this previous trade that, just briefly looked like it was having a bottom, uptrending just a tiny bit, and then it just continued to downtrend some more. So, yeah, this was a pretty good day. Trading IND. I just missed out on the big move, but ideally I can be better with what I've learned and then be more profitable. Let's look at NEPT for the 18th. 18th is right here. Big first green day, downtrended a lot. Could be like a short squeeze, especially this one because it is a listed stock, so it's something easier to short. Probably zoom in a bit more. I was in at 1259 at let's just say 276, and this was a first dip under VWAP, trend line breakout. So 1259, 276. Right here is when I got in, 1259, 276. I got in right here. Why? First dip under VWAP, and then I had something about a trend line break. I'm gonna just guess where this trend line might have been. No longer having the in the moment knowledge. That seems like it's a bit off. Let me just see if I have a screenshot actually. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. This is a screenshot when I actually traded it, and I don't have the freaking trend line here either, but I clearly had some kind of a trend line, maybe this, and then it was breaking past it right here, or at least my idea was that it was going to break past it, and it was under VWAP right here. Yeah, I could just guess what the trend line I had was, but that was the idea with that. And I did get out very quickly, actually, the same minute at 276, because it was just kind of shaky. And when I got in this setup, I actually only had 5 shares, which is tiny because I have a $5 risk level with listed stocks, but it was also because I was supposed to trade 10 shares, but because it was already trading above the trend line that I had, that it was breaking past it, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be in half of my position size in case it breaks this trend line and it starts to uptrend right then and there. But then is if it's going to break past the trend line, maybe uptrend a little, but then it comes back, but still hold above this level, of course, I could get in the other 5 shares and then I'm in full size and I didn't miss out. That was the idea. I got out the same minute, very shaky, listed stock, not something I'm that good at compared to listed OTC stocks. I mean, yeah, it did uptrend. I mean, 276, and then the top of the range was like $3. So obviously, it had some kind of a profitability. It wasn't like scalping for 5 pennies or something like that. That would have been an 8% move. Not a bad attempt at a listed stock. I do need to keep getting better at that. Let's look at INND on the 19th. 19th is right here. Very sketchy, just hanging on, all looking all ugly. Probably zoom in a bit more. That seems fine. I was in at 933 at 225. Morning panic bounce play. So 933. I'll zoom in more. 933 was right here at 225. Morning panic bounce play drops from 25 as low as 21.8. I know it's a 2-cent stock, but I like to, say numbers like that because it just seems easier. Right here, 225. I got out the same minute at 228. So I was in at 225, got out at 228. Why did I give myself a no right here in terms of did I trade this well or not? Because I didn't sell in pieces. This is a morning panic bounce play. It's already had a few morning panic bounce plays, so I get the idea that it could be something that could work out over a longer period of time because it likes to be stubborn and try to regain itself. This was a setup where I could have been in at 225. I hold on the position, but I didn't because I was too shaky, which was bad because I sold everything instead of selling a portion of my position. We can draw the trend line right here. I've seen this so many times that if I don't start trading this, better, I'm going to give myself a lot of crap and knock myself down. Right here, I'm in at 225. Chickened out, sold at 228, even though it was going in my favor. Should have drawn a trend line from this corner to the next corner of the next subtrending candle. And then I could have sold maybe half of my position by the time it got past VWAP because that's always a goal. And then once it breaks past this trend line, I should still have half of my position or maybe just a third left because, maybe I sold half of my position on the uptrend and then I sold more because it got above VWAP. But then when it breaks past this trend line, with all of that said and done, I should have at least a quarter or a third of my position, just not everything out. And then it did make a higher low right here. Sketchy wick right here, but I actually did try to be long this one more time, but I didn't get filled. This now made a higher low off of the panic bottom. A little weird because this one has VWAP already, around this range. Normally with a setup like this, VWAP is higher, but we had the panic. I'm in at 225. I sell in pieces, and I should have a remaining position after the trend line break. I'm in it right here. Ideally, it makes a higher low, even though it had a sketchy freaking wick right here. And it did make a higher low off of this level. And then it starts to uptrend, and then we're at the top of the range, which in most cases would also be VWAP. We break past VWAP. We have one more uptrend. I could even have another trend line from the corner here to the first corner of the next candle that's uptrending is not an exact science because it broke under it here, even though it got much higher. You know, it broke past it, but then it regained itself very aggressively uptrending. And I mean, a sell right into here once it broke past it again in the 25s. This was actually freaking realistic. And I did try to go long right here when it looked like it was going to break the top of the range. I didn't get filled, unfortunately, because I was just too slow. But with more experience, I could totally get in it because I keep seeing this setup again and again. It's like, you know, just, I don't know, just something going on. Just like, I'm not trying to come off as crazy, but I keep seeing these same patterns. This is something that I can do to keep getting better and be much more profitable. Shouldn't have chickened out and sold at 228. Again, I'm not going to go over everything, but I should have sold a lot better with this one. I gave myself crap. I'm actually going to give myself more crap because kind of, okay, maybe not with caps, but this is something I've seen again and again. And yeah, I just need to do better than that. Right? I got a 73 now, which is a freaking a D. I could have done this. I could have gotten much better. This thing would have been super profitable. I could have been in at 225. Let's just say a sell at, you know, because I sold half by the time we got past this trend line right here. And then let's say I sold some up here. Let's just say overall, I got out at 238 on average. So kind of on the lower end, actually. Right? That would have been 20 bucks. That would have been super cool. Still made money, but you know, this thing offered a lot more and I should have done better. Let's look at the last setup. BBIG on the 19th. Let me get rid of these before I forget. I have no idea what that spasm was. 19, and that was, yep, this one right here. And this was a bit of an interesting one because this is another listed stock trading an OTC setup. 11 a.m. reversal. I was in at 11:45 at, I'll say 109 and a half. So 11:45 was right here, and I got in at 109 and a half. So right around right here is when I got in. And this was like 11 a.m. reversal setup. So you can see I had a recent uptrend, and then this day it was like down at this point right here around 20-ish% on the day. So we're already past 11, right? We even had a bit of a higher low situation going on. It's down 20% on the day. VWAP is also way above where it's trading at the time. And then I'm in it right here at 11:45. The goal is for it to uptrend like it did right here, put up a higher low. It did get above VWAP, which is nice because sometimes it doesn't get to VWAP. Maybe this could have been the ultimate top and then it just downtrending more and just trending back and forth. This one did put up a higher low, break above VWAP. It got as high as 122, which is super nice. Let's just see what difference that is. I'm not saying I would have sold everything there, but I want to see. I guess best case scenario, you would have made 11%, but this thing was super predictable and it works more often than not. I was going to cut it if it was going to break below $1.09 because then I felt like it was going to be a change in momentum maybe. And I did get out of this one at 11:57 at 110. 11:57 is when I got out. It did transition a bit higher to the next range. I just got out of this one because I had to go get off the computer and go somewhere else. I had to, so I wasn't able to you know, stay in the position and let it play out. I could maybe learn how to use trailing stops or something like that with illicit stocks like in this one right here, and maybe it would have allowed me to have been able to have sold at a somewhat decent price point without even being at the computer. But this was a good attempt and it did play out, but I'm not going to give myself any crap for getting out of it the way I did here because I had to go. It wasn't like that other trade with IND. That's it for this weekly recap. I think I did pretty well despite my lack of sleep. At least I'm going to sleep very easily now because I've mentally deprived myself. But I hope all of you watching this can just see how I trade and maybe learn some things, maybe see something that you can do in your trading, or something you see here that you can, stay away from. Maybe you see something I'm doing that's horrible, right? That I think is fine. I mean, that's just the point of day trading, just trying to get better, learning, and this is what I do every Sunday so that I can just get right back into the mindset of day trading, especially on Monday because I rewatched this weekly recap to get in the mindset again of day trading. That's it for this day weekly recap. I made 30 bucks, but I could have made 130 bucks. I could have made a lot more. There were a few setups that I didn't trade that well, and I did also miss up on a few, like I went over here, as well as some other takers like LWLG that I totally missed out on just by hesitation. A lot of things that I did well, a lot of things I need to keep getting better at. Those are the ones I focus on the most. That's it for this video.